Now available in paperback and e-readers. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback and e-readers everywhere at online booksellers today. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Historical Women in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Historical Women in Crisis series, he wanted me to talk about two women who have been influenced by demons, your Madalyn Murray O'Hair and your Mary Kay Letournau. Now, your Madalyn Murray O'Hair is a woman who I believe was influenced by a demon known as the Jezebel spirit. And because your Madalyn Murray O'Hair was influenced by the Jezebel spirit, she was the woman who went out here and led America away from its moral position by going out here and filing the lawsuit that led to the federal separation of church and state, where you could not read the Bible or have religious literature in public schools. Now, your Madalyn Murray O'Hair was born Madalyn Mays back in 1919, and your Madalyn Mays in 1941 married John Henry Roths, a steelworker. Now, your Madalyn Mays and John Henry Roths separated when they enlisted for World War II service. When she went to the Army Corps in 1945, she was posted to a cryptography position in Italy, and she used that as an opportunity to participate in hypergamy by monkey branching from her husband, John Henry Roths, who was just a laborer as a steel worker, to an officer, William J. Murray Jr., who she created a covert contract where she thought if she would go out here and have an affair with this man would go out here and marry her. Now, as your Madalyn Mays, who was married to John Henry Roths, was having an affair with William J. Murray Jr., he refused to divorce his wife, and as a result, she wound up getting pregnant as they were having that affair. And what she did was she went out here and divorced her husband and then adopted the name Madalyn Murray. And that really showed me how this woman basically was looking to just elevate her social status, because she did not like being known as the wife of a steel worker. No, she wanted to elevate herself to a high position, and she wanted to use this man's name to go out here and elevate her position. Even though she was not married to him, she still divorced her husband and then decided to take on another man's name. And that just shows you how just twisted this woman was, and how she was just an opportunist looking to take advantage of people. Now, in the aftermath of this affair, your Madalyn Mays got pregnant with your William J. Murray's son, and she thought, oh, she could go out here and give the son the man's name, and that's when she adopted the name Madalyn Murray and then gave her son that name. And as she did this, she walked away from God. Now, your Madalyn Murray was out here with a son that did not have his legitimate name, but she gave him that name because she wanted to go out here and create a rose-colored reality where she was going to make her son the legitimate son of a man that she had during an affair. And what's even more troubling about your Madalyn Murray is that as she was doing this, she would walk away from God again and declared herself an atheist, by saying that God didn't give her the husband that she wanted. But what she didn't see was that she was out here participating in adultery by having an affair with a married man, and there was no way that the Most High would go out here and bless a relationship that was born in sin. So her beliefs in atheism come not from anything that's related to the Most High. No, she doesn't want to believe in God because God would not co-sign her wicked behavior. And that's where the foundation for your Madalyn Murray O'Hair's atheism comes from. Now, she'll say that it came from the reading the Bible in 1932. However, I believe the main reason why your Madalyn Murray became an atheist is because she was angry at the Most High, and she was angry about not being able to have him co-signing her wicked and sinful behavior, and she also wanted to have power as related to being in the place of a man in the Most High's natural order, and she would not be able to have that power as a head. And that was another reason why your Madalyn Mays wanted to forsake God, because she wanted that power for herself. And that's why she went out here and tried to take another man's name and then name her son after the legitimate name of another man, even though she was having a bastard by another man. She wanted to go out here and name her son after this. And what's even more disturbing is that even after she graduated college, she then went out here and joined the socialists and the communists. And I believe that she joined the socialists and the communists because she wanted to be a part of creating her own order, and she wanted to be an equal in society as a leader. And that's what I believe she was so eager to try to become a part of the communists. She says she wanted people to learn the truth about capitalism, but I believe that's a lie. I believe what she wanted to do was have the so-called equal power that communism promoted to men and women at the time in America. And first she went to the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. to defect to the Soviet Union. But when she was rejected and that didn't work, she then flew to Paris to go out here and be a part of the Soviet Union, and was rejected once more. And with her quest to become a communist in the Soviet Union, your Madalyn Murray then got angry and came back to the United States and went to go live in Baltimore with her mother, father, and her brother. And as she was living there, she wanted to enroll her son, William, in school. And as she was enrolling her son in school, she was angry because the school had a lot of activities as related to reading the Bible and going out here and engaging in prayers, I believe. Now, as a result of this, your Madalyn Murray O'Hare then decided to go out here and file a lawsuit against the school district in Baltimore as related to separating church and state, as related to removing mandatory prayer from the U.S. public schools and reading the Bible. And as she was doing this, what was really interesting to me, she went out here and gave birth to a second son, John Garth Murray, by another man, Michael Fleuriel. Now, what I find to be quite interesting is you have this woman who is against the church and the reading of the Bible in public schools, and against children learning about the Most High. But as she's doing this, she's participating in sexual promiscuity. She's got 2 kids by 2 different fathers. And as she's got these 2 kids by 2 different fathers, she's out here looking to go out here and remove the Word of God from public schools because it runs counter to the low moral position that your Madalyn Murray had at the time. Now, as your Madalyn Murray filed this lawsuit and eventually got a victory in the U.S. Supreme Court in 1963, which ended the practice of mandatory prayer and reading the Bible, as these actions were declared unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. Your Madalyn Murray wound up being known as the most hated woman in Baltimore, and basically was a woman that no one wanted to associate with. And the hostility towards your Madalyn Murray was so intense that your Murray had to leave with her sons in 1963 and move to Hawaii after incidents which happened around her home were so bad that the place just became crazy. Now, it was your Madalyn Murray, after she moved to Hawaii, she married another man, U.S. Marine Richard O'Hare, and this also fits into her hypergamy, as she was monkey branching to another man, and as she was out here going out here monkey branching from man to man, she was out here with this man. As they said, even though they separated, she was legally married to him, but they were separated because your Madalyn Murray basically was using this man as a tool as she was going out here pushing her atheist agenda. Now, your Madalyn Murray, as she was out in the aftermath of going out here and removing the policy of reading the Bible and reading and talking of teaching about the Bible and participating in biblical activities in public schools, she then was also a feminist who basically did not really see men as having value. And your Madalyn Murray also was an anti-Semitic who also tried to question the Holocaust. So your Madalyn Murray was a demon who was out here with the Jezebel spirit possessing her, and with this Jezebel spirit, she was out here wreaking havoc as going out here and ending prayer and biblical activities in public schools and teaching of the Most High. She then was out here devaluing God's stewards by saying that all men wanted to do was go out here and have sex with women, but in reality, she was a woman who was out here looking to just use men as tools to go and monkey branch from point A to point B. So she's a bit of a hypocrite in her feminist statements that she made in the 1965 issue of Playboy by saying that most men only see women as a means for his own ejaculation. Well, she was basically using that man in the military as a tool to elevate her social status from a man who was a steel worker, which was a low-level job in her eyes, to getting a military officer, and then she went out here and got involved with another military man. So she was a woman in crisis out for many years, and she was a demon who was out here, going out here wreaking havoc all across the country, just basically wreaking so much havoc that most people just saw the demon that was in her. And again, just a woman who just, again, as she was out here wreaking havoc by promoting these ideas of, and then working with her own organization, American Atheists. Now, this American Atheists, they are an organization that doesn't believe in God, and they talk about the First Amendment in public policy. And she ran this organization for several decades with her son, and she was so caught up in her hatred of God that she was running this organization and pushing her atheist ideals to the point where she basically disowned one of her sons. And she disowned her firstborn son because she couldn't use him as a tool to push her agenda, because her firstborn son became a born-again Christian, and once he became a Christian, your Madalyn Murray O'Hare wound up disowning him because she could not use him to push her atheist agenda, because this woman had a disdain for God, but the whole thing was she did not love God at all. No, she basically was angry with God because he would, again, not co-sign any of the wicked behavior that she was participating in. And because she was participating in this wicked behavior, she thought the Most High was going to go out here and justify it. But the evil that she done, she eventually had wound up reaping what she sowed, later than she sowed, and greater than she sowed in 1995, because she went out here as part of her American Atheist organization. She went out here and hired a convicted felon, David Roland Waters, to work for her. And this David Roland Waters was a convicted felon who had already spent eight years in prison for taking the life of a teenager many years ago. And this David Roland Waters, on seeing how much money your Madalyn Murray O'Hare was making with her American Atheist organization, he stole $54,000 from her organization and was fired from that organization, but that wasn't enough for him. He decided to go back for more, and when he went back for more, he kidnapped Madalyn Murray O'Hair, her son, and his granddaughter, and her granddaughter, and they were all kidnapped, and a ransom was made for $600,000, and what the son did was try to get $600,000 in gold coins from a San Antonio jeweler, but only took delivery of $400,000. And what happened after your David Roland Waters received this $400,000? What he did was go out here and murder your Madalyn Murray O'Hair, her son, and the granddaughter, and he also murdered one of the accomplices as related to the crime. And sadly, your Madalyn Murray O'Hair wound up dying in a way similar to Jezebel, and because in the Bible, Jezebel, she was thrown off of a balcony and her body was mutilated, I believe, by animals to the point where there was only left her head and her hands, I believe. And in the case of Madalyn Murray O'Hair, her body was mutilated, and that of her son and her granddaughter, and they were all mutilated and dismembered, and then their bodies were put into buried in a ranch, and their bodies weren't even found until about 2001. So the way your Madalyn Murray O'Hair passed away, this woman reaped what she sowed, greater than she sowed, later than she sowed, as related to the wicked behavior she participated in by destroying the moral position of America. And as she destroyed the moral position of America, this led to the decline of America's morality, because with the Word of God not being taught in public schools and prayer no longer being a part of public schools due to this woman who was just a modern-day Jezebel, she wound up leading to a major component to why America's moral position went into a state of decline, and as a result, she died in an extremely horrific fashion, and part of her own fortune for her American Atheist organization basically wound up getting squandered because these greedy individuals with low moral position that she got involved with basically took her atheist fortunes and squandered them, and that was just her reaping what she sowed as related to corrupting the souls of many of America's children. So when I look at this whole case of your Madalyn Murray O'Hair, she is a textbook woman in crisis, and she was a woman in crisis because she was a feminist who wanted to go out here and call herself making things better for her viewpoint, but in actuality she was a woman living in sin, and the sin that she lived in eventually caught up with her, because all of those people who had no moral position she got involved with, and those people with no moral position basically became her undoing and led to her own tragic demise. Now, the second woman in crisis I'm going to be talking about is convicted pedophile Mary Kay Letourneau. Now, your Mary Kay Letourneau became infamous in the 1990s when she was arrested for going out here and participating in the statutory sexual violation of a 12-year-old boy she was teaching in her class. Now, your Mary Kay Letourneau became a woman in crisis, I believe, back when she was attending Arizona State University and got involved with fellow student Steve Letourneau. Now, your Mary Kay Letourneau says that she was not in love with Steve and only married him after being coerced to do so by her parents, and after marrying your Steve Letourneau and having 4 children with him, I believe your Mary Kay Letourneau was feeling powerless about her life, and because she felt like she had lost all of her power and control, this is why she went out here looking to get involved with your Vili Falau, because she felt powerless as related to her marriage and the 4 children she had with your Steve Letourneau, and because she felt powerless about that relationship, this is why she wanted to go out here and pursue a relationship with a 12-year-old boy. Now, this 12-year-old boy, Vili Falau, didn't even know who he was, and since he didn't even know who he was, what happened is that he was just somebody that your Mary Kay Letournau could go out here and take advantage of. And she wanted to take advantage of your Vili Falau because she wanted to have power over a man that she couldn't have over a man like a Steve Letournau, and she wanted to have power and control in a relationship like she couldn't have in any other relationship. Now, when I take a critical examination of your Mary Kay Letournau, she definitely fits what I talk about in my later chapter, talking about the sexual deviancy of your woman in crisis. And in that chapter, I detail how many of these kinds of women, they get involved with relationships with young boys because they want to go out here and have that power in that relationship, and they want to be able to control a boy because they know that they feel powerless about their relationships with men. And that's what happened here with Vili Falau, who thought that your Mary Kay Letournau actually had feelings for him, but she did not feelings for him. In fact, she took advantage of a very important relationship as related to female authority figures, which is the relationship between a student and a teacher. Now, a teacher by profession is supposed to remain objective when they're on their job, and they're not supposed to let their feelings go out here and take it and overtake them as related to their professional relationship. They're supposed to remain professional and objective when they're on the job. Unfortunately, your Mary Kay Letournau didn't want to remain professional because of her issues as related to power in her own marriage, and what she wanted to do was go out here and get involved with this boy because she wanted to go out here and actually have a relationship where she could feel emotionally secure, because her own marriage had been falling apart due to the financial problems that they were having and the extramarital affairs that Mary Kay Letournau had been having and your Steve Letournau had been having, and your Mary Kay Letournau just really wanted to get that power that she could never had in her life, and this was her way of getting that power by getting involved with this boy, Vili Falau, in 1996. Now, this whole relationship was very troubling because, again, it shows how many of your women in crisis don't understand what boundaries are and how they will break boundaries in order to sate their feelings of powerlessness and be able to have some semblance of control in their lives. And that's what happened here with your Mary Kay Letournau's relationship with Vili Falau. She was looking to be the dominant person in the relationship, and she was looking to be able to be the leader in the relationship rather than submit to the authority of a man. She went out here and was looking to be able to be the one that controlled the relationship. However, as this relationship, which was inappropriate, was going on, a relative of her husband contacted the police, and that relative who contacted the police led to your Mary Kay Letournau being arrested and then she had to plead guilty to 2 counts of child sexual violation. And what's really disturbing is, as she was serving a sentence, she had a child with your Vili Falau, a 12-year-old boy, and that's the most disturbing thing, was that this woman, again, sexually abused this boy, and I want people to understand this, that your Mary Kay Letournau sexually abused this boy, because a 12-year-old boy does not really know who he is, and he is not mature enough to actually make a consent to any sort of sexual activity. No, a 12-year-old boy is just a young, naive person who is just coming into puberty and barely coming into a sense of self. And your Mary Kay Letournau took advantage of this boy and exploited him sexually in order for her to have power. And again, she's talking about how she was back in the 90s, about how she was having a relationship with this boy. No, what she was having was power in this relationship, and I'll keep repeating the power because that's what this relationship was all about. And even though she had been arrested and put in jail for an extended period of time, she violated her own the agreement, and then this led to her, while she was waiting, the state wanted to put her in jail for 6.5 years, but she was, even though she had been registered as a sex offender and became an international tabloid scandal, she still, 2 weeks after completing her jail sentence, was still going out here pursuing a relationship with your Vili Falau. And again, she was not looking to have a consensual relationship with this boy. No, she was sexually abusing this boy, because many women in crisis, because they feel powerless in their lives, they look for a man, a boy, to go out here and have power over. And the whole Mary Kay Letourneau case is very troubling, but it foreshadowed a disturbing trend that I'm seeing going on right now as related to America's women in crisis and the rising escalation of your teachers and other female professionals going out here and participating in the sexual abuse of young boys. And again, I will say that it is the sexual abuse of young boys, because these boys, again, they cannot go out here and legally consent to a sexual relationship, in spite of everything that Madison Avenue and Hollywood present as related to teenage boys getting involved with older women. A teenage boy does not emotionally understand what he's doing, nor does he understand the emotional impact of his decision. And this is why this is sexual abuse of a boy, in spite of what your Madison Avenue, Hollywood, and the porn industry want you to believe about what they call MILFs. These women are sexually abusing any boy under the age of, as I think it, 18 to 21 years old, because those boys from 12 to about 17, they still don't even know who they are as boys, and don't even know what type of man they're going to become. And these sexual predators, like a Mary Kay Letourneau, they look to take advantage of these boys' naivete in order so that they can be the leader in the relationship, and they can have a relationship where they think they can have a codependent relationship where the boy will submit to them. But what they are doing, again, is participating in an act of sexual deviancy. And I talk about this in depth in my book, The Woman Crisis, about how this is sexually deviant behavior, and how this sexually deviant behavior is detrimental to a boy's growth, because, again, a boy is not understanding how to have a healthy sexual relationship with a predator like a Mary Kay Letourneau. Now, your Mary Kay Letourneau went on and tried to go on the run with your Vili Falau, and wound up violating her parole and violating the agreement, and then wound up with her prison sentence being reinstated as related to violating the no contact order with this 12-year-old boy. And as she was serving time in prison, she gave birth to a second child by Vili Falau, and your Vili Falau's life was damaged in a very devastating way. He wound up, as a result of this dysfunctional relationship, dropping out of high school. His mother wound up with custody of his children that he didn't even know how to take care of. He became suicidal, had depression and alcoholism, and attempted suicide. And he was just damaged overall emotionally because of the sexual abuse he suffered at the hands of your Mary Kay Letourneau. Now, the damage done to this boy was so bad that even after your Mary Kay Letourneau wound up being released in 2004 as a level 2 sex offender, your Falau, at age 21, went to the court and persuaded them to reverse the no contact order, then wound up marrying Mary Kay Letourneau and stayed with your Mary Kay Letourneau even after filing, even up to about 2017, where he wound up eventually filing for divorce because the relationship had deteriorated, but then wanted to later withdraw the filing. But the damage was done, and it was done because a pedophile like your Mary Kay Letourneau had exploited this young man and had just basically destroyed his life. And as his life was damaged and destroyed by this woman, it was made a media sensation. But this whole situation was done damage to your Vili Falau, who became a man in crisis, who has 2 daughters, and possibly doesn't even know how to be a father, because this woman basically exploited and took advantage of him. And while they finalized a legal separation, your Vili Falau wants to think that he is not a victim, but he was a victim being taken advantage of by a sexual predator. And I'm going to use the phrase sexual predator to talk about Mary Kay Letourneau, because she was a sexual predator. As an adult, she knew that this boy was a child in her charge, and as a child in her charge, she knew that she was older than this boy, and she knew that as someone older, she needed to set a boundary professionally as she engaged with this boy. But because she wanted to be able to have power and control in the relationship she couldn't have with her husband, Steve, she wound up going out here looking to push past that boundary. And as she pushed past that boundary, she sexually abused this boy. And again, I will say that because I know that a lot of guys out here, they watch movies like American Pie and many of these other movies where older women go out here and seduce teenage boys. But I want everybody to understand this was a 12-year-old boy. And as a 12-year-old boy back in 1985, I will tell you that back then, I didn't know anything about women or relationships, and if somebody like this came to me, I would have to say that, again, it is sexual abuse, and that's what this boy suffered, and nobody really wants to talk about that because they get caught up in the sensationalism of an older woman going after a young boy. But this is what happened with this woman in crisis, who led to this boy winding up becoming a man in crisis. Now, your Mary Kay Letourneau wound up dying at the age of 58 in 2020 from colon rectal cancer, and I'm guessing there's another resident in hell after related to all of the sexual deviancy she participated in corrupting this young boy. As this woman in crisis, her life wound up resolving at the end, where she wound up in hell for the perversion she participated in, because your Mary Kay Letourneau is a textbook example of a woman in crisis who just was out here looking to use her body as a way to get power and control over a young boy, because she has a hard time being able to function in a relationship as a woman. So your Mary Kay Letourneau is definitely a woman in crisis, and she was one of the sickest women out here. And again, well, she'll have a blonde hair and a bright smile, but there's a monster underneath. And again, this woman in crisis led to a boy becoming a man in crisis. And again, it's all because she was out here looking to use sex as a way to go out here and exploit a boy and put him in an unhealthy relationship that no other boy should ever be involved in. Now, if you want to learn more about the dysfunctional behavior of women in crisis and what leads to women becoming women in crisis, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Barnes & Noble, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Walmart. And if you want to see me do more videos in the historical Women in Crisis series, you can send a donation to the Cash App or the PayPal by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.